Hello, thank you for joining us. This is Movie Grade. I'm your host, J.R. Alva. I'm joined here today with
Clowny Gigglesworth.
Oh, Victor.
And Jay Anderson.
Thank you guys for being here. All right, so this weekend we had the opportunity to catch Maxxxine, a horror film that just recently came out. First impressions on this movie for myself, I enjoyed it. Although I think it might be mislabeled mainly because I don't really see it very much as a horror film, but it definitely had plenty of suspense, plenty of gore. If you're a fan of gore, you're going to enjoy it. First impressions, I liked it. I had a lot of fun.
So personally, I agree with you. I was looking through all the different sites that detail the movie, and they all listed as a horror, a slasher movie. It is a slasher bit movie. When they say horror, I didn't know if they meant like horror, like or like she gets paid for it. But I'm just saying, like, it wasn't very horrific. It was more on the suspenseful side because you didn't know what was going to happen. So I wasn't too pleased with it in the sense that it wasn't really fitting into the horror genre.
I loved it as an extension of the X and Pearl sort of timeline, where it feels like a natural evolution for it to evolve from less of the slasher horror into something else, into something more subtle, more suspenseful. And horror can be suspenseful. That is the build up to horror in a lot of movies. It's made by a great director named Ty West. He made Pearl and X, obviously. He's the screenwriter for almost all his films, also an editor as well. He has made a lot of great films like House of the Devil, a great almost campy homage to 80s horror. Great film. You can find it on Peacock. He's also made The Sacrament, The Innkeepers, and In the Valley of Violence. I think he's a very good director, and honestly felt like a great horror can be many things. It can be, it can be more, I guess, active with slasher films where there's more activity. But in this film, I think it works.
I think Ty West paid him for that promo. I'm just saying.
I don't know the guy, so I like his work.
That's what someone who was getting paid for it would say. Jerry?
Well, if you're going to ask me, my first impressions of this movie was that it was just an overhyped mess of a movie. The excitement was there, but this movie landed flatter than a pancake being run over by a steamroller. I didn't like it.
I agree.
Well, everybody's got different points on this one, so we're definitely gonna have to dive deep into this one. I guess let's talk about the acting. Being considered a typical slasher film, usually, it's the damsel in distress. And this was not so much that. It was a bit of a, obviously there was a bit of a trope that kind of came in there when it came to the protagonist. But I guess everybody, I think everyone played their part as it would be. A nice, pleasant surprise, Kevin Bacon being in this movie. If you didn't know, I really enjoyed him playing something a little different. I think that was a refreshing. Acting wise, I enjoyed what everyone performed. I enjoyed how everyone performed personally. What about you guys?
I think personally it was pretty good. I love the acting. Extra crispy bacon. He looks great. He was awesome. He's getting up there in age. For those of you that may or may have not seen it, Axel F. On Netflix. He looks pretty young and he looks great in it, by the way. But he did really good, kind of playing the questionable PI. But it wasn't overly done and it wasn't underwhelming. I thought it was really good. But the acting as a whole, the protagonist, I kind of like how she went in there just like a badass. Like, there was no buildup of her needing to find her courage. Like, she was just ready to just tear into it. Like, it was amazing. Everyone in the cast did not, leave me needing more from them, despite it not feeling like a horror movie.
Honestly, the whole cast is great. Mia Goth is a great actor. She's an actor who I feel makes, even in her worst movies, she makes them better. There's one specifically, Infinity Pool. It's kind of it's an okay movie if you like weird movies, but she makes the movie better because she's genuinely scary there. You never know what she's going to quite do in that movie. So, but this is not the case, where she always sort of brings her A game, especially to this, since she helped even co-write Pearl. So she has sort of a hand in the X, Pearl, and Maxxxine sort of movies, the franchise
Universe.
Oh, is the universe? I don't know what constitutes a universe per se. It's just, like it, because each sort of film stands on its own. I feel after watching this, I haven't seen X, but I've seen Pearl, and Pearl is amazing. She does a great job there. Giancarlo Esposito is great as her kind of somewhat shady agent.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty fun.
There's something wrong with a shady agent. I mean, after all, I am kind of a shady manager.
I'd say so.
Well, that explains the sunglasses indoors.
Yes, and it has nothing to do with whatever illegal substance I just took.
No wonder. I thought those were your pupils. I was just wondering.
Getting back to your point, Victor.
I'll go ahead.
No. I mean, honestly, going with you, I do agree that like the acting was great. Carlos Benito is in everything. I love that fact in there. Mia Goth, I loved her portrayal there. Although I gotta say though, like when she was in Pearl, she was playing the antagonist. I mean, in the first movie, it's Maxine's character. She goes out with her friends, make a dirty movie, and Pearl wants to kill these kids. It's a spoiler for a movie that's been around for years, but in this movie, I feel like she just had she wasn't as strong as she was in X. She didn't portray the strong, independent woman that I thought she was going to be. Was she driven to get what she wanted career-wise? Yes, I got that. But was she a strong, independent woman? No, she had help the entire time. She didn't make it on her own, and when she did finally have her badass moment, it's just, I don't know. I felt like she was more damsel in distress the entire movie than anything else. I didn't get strength, but maybe I could be proven wrong. I know there may be like one or two scenes that dictated otherwise, but I personally didn't get that impression for the majority of it.
Well, she did have her strength, but I think she's just having moments of doubt.
Well, one of the things that I'm going to point out is that she did have trauma, and that's one of the things, because opening scene, she uses that trauma. And that's one of the things that I think she's even any actor always knows that you always go back into what has happened to you whenever you portray something.
Yeah,
so
you live through that PTSD.
And so that trauma is one of those things that comes out in the storyline. And when you see that storyline, and unfortunately, mild spoiler, she's an ex, and there's a traumatic experience that happens in X, and that trauma does come out as she's acting in this movie. Yeah, it carries into this movie. So I think she's trying to be strong, but that trauma's there.
I do think the pressures of her trying to make it are definitely in the forefront of this, where she's consistently being reminded of a quote from someone important to her that's kind of inspiring her, but also a burden to her.
I kind of get your points, and I feel like that was portrayed in certain scenes, but at the same time, they didn't have the gall to go through with that. And other scenes, you don't get that impression at all. You get that the trauma was so traumatizing, it's victimized her whole life to the point where she can't function. I thought she was a strong, independent person. The other scene earlier dictated that last time someone did something like this to her, they paid. And she was all of a sudden a strong, independent woman at that moment. And then the next scene, a complete tonal shift. And to me, I think that was my issue. I could be wrong, and I would love to be convinced otherwise, honestly.
But honestly, there's a point where you can be strong enough for a moment, but you still have to reflect upon where you're drawing your strength from. There's the drama that is kind of pushing her to proceed forward.
Sometimes there's just that trauma that gives you this desire to, like you say, push forward, where you're kind of having this battle of good and evil within, where you're kind of looking for the strength to push forward because, you know what? No, I got through this last time. oh my God, something happened to me last time. But you were able to get through it, and you have this tug of war with your emotions, with your fear, with your trauma that was created from the previous time that causes this tug of war in your mind, causing her to do that, to have that issue. That's probably why you didn't see a lot of the strength. And I see what you mean too. I can agree. There were times that she was just weak, where, like, you know, in the one scene, she's, you know, she has an issue with what she just experienced with a, you know, a murder that took place. And this was something that was someone close to her, and, you know, she couldn't handle it the way she should have handled it. And then she has another scene where she's about to go through something, and you're just kind of like, oh my God, is this going to happen? And then all of a sudden it totally flips the tables, and she becomes a, a Billy badass.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it is tied to that battle and trauma within her.
I think she's definitely having a lot of choices at that point in her life, where she's trying to proceed forward with her career, but she's trying to think about what the price is. And it's a lot of the case with this. I think it's a scenario she has. A lot of the cases, she has a lot of people telling her, well, you wanted this, right? Well, then just go for it. But she's having to go, well, you're not, in a way, it's not them paying that price. So it's easy for someone else to go, oh, hey, you're going through a tough time, but hey, just deal with it.
It's like telling somebody, hey, you know what, toughen up. And it's like, yeah, but I'm going through something right now, you know, and I've been told that before. A lot of people that go through, not just traumatic experiences, but like, you know, depression or any mental illness and stuff like that. What do people say? Oh, you know what, just, you know,
suck it up, Buttercup.
Thank you. You know, and that's what happens to her a couple of times, and it shows that she's even like, all right, and then you can see her get tight-lipped and try to push forward. Just mainly pointing out the plot. I will say that the end was definitely a surprise if you weren't ready for it. To me, that was one of the biggest things, and this will go into. We'll talk more deeply about the movie when we get into the spoiler territory, but you know, just right now, going into the plot was complete surprise towards the end.
States of America. We just had 4th of July.
I mean, plot wise, I can see the story. I mean, I love the fact that, you know, the whole thing starts off with this woman just going off trying to make a better, you know, make a star of herself, you know, and the whole time she's being chased down for whatever reason. Everyone thinks it's the Night Stalker, but you know, there's a red herring involved in this plot, and without giving anything away, the use of that red herring is good. However, the reveal at the end comes out of nowhere, and to me, it took me out of the entire plot. To me, I felt like the story was crumbling, and then the twist happened, and I dropped all the pieces to the puzzle.
I kind of agree with Jay on that, because that's what kind of threw me off from the movie. I felt like, and that was a great analogy, by the way, Jay, it felt like somebody had a giant cookie and it was crumbling as they're taking it to someone, and they're trying to pick up the pieces. Everything was just very scattered. Like they wanted to try to throw in the red herring of the Night Stalker, and you know, it was exactly that. It had nothing to do with the movie, had nothing to do with the plot. It coincided with the timeline of everything taking place to give people an idea of the timeline. But it seemed like there was too many things jumping at too many different places, and they wanted you to pay attention to this, and they were doing too much sleight of hand that didn't need to be done, and I think it took away too much from the movie.
But I think the Night Stalker was a factor. It was a factor without giving much away. There's a lot of side events that go on, but within the side events, the Night Stalker is the overall easy thing to use as a cover.
It's portrayed in 1985 when the Stalker was prevalent in Hollywood also.
And it's easy for anyone. If you do crime, you can easily blame. Like, there's a guy breaking into houses named the Fox Guy, and you can easily just leave a Fox thing, and it's like, oh, it's a Fox Guy breaking into homes.
Plot-wise, like I said, it just the way the ending comes out does come out of left field. And one of the things I will point out is going into the story is the practical effects that were being used into the movie. Like I said, if you like gore, there's some gore scenes, and I was like, yeah, some of those scenes kind of get you where you want. If you want a taste of blood, you're gonna get a taste of blood. How did you guys feel about the practical effects?
Obviously, you know, I love practical effects, so I'm always paying attention to a lot of that. And I think they did really good with it. They didn't do like everyone else. Obviously, you know, A24 isn't a big major company. They have heavy roots in the independent industry, and they did with what they could with what they had based on their budget, and they went the smart route with going with practical effects, not visual effects that needed to be done CGI. I think they did really good. They weren't going too far in the territory of Tarantino, but they weren't so shy of, you know, just making it just little drips of blood here and there. Like, they weren't afraid to blur the line to make sure you knew a murder took place, someone got killed, you know, so on and so forth. I thought the practical effects were great. I think the cinematography that blended everything together really worked awesomely.
Yeah.
And it didn't make it look like a B film where it's like the cut and the take is like you have this dummy that's leaning against the wall and it's like they had an overly long shot before the squid blew up on it. Like everything cued to where it's like if it's a gun going off and the gun was aimed at something or someone and that, you know, that part explodes, it didn't just seem go boom, pop. Like everything was seamless, and it was just like if you were there watching it, you know, you would have thought, "Oh my God, did I just see that? That was gross, but so awesome."
The practical effects were great. It felt very much within like the old '80s films that those like slasher films of one comes to mind is kind of like about was a sorority that gets targeted.
Sleepaway Camp or something.
No, that's the one in the camp. I think one was sorority. It's a very old, kind of forgettable film because it's bloody and gory, but it's very lackluster in own right. But the blood and gore there is pretty fun for what it is. But that's the product of the '80s, you know. And I think this very much like kind of honors the '80s in a way. The filmmaker style he adapts to sort of what the story's telling. And he handles the '80s very well. Whether it's from like House of the Devil, where that was a different kind of whole story, where it's not really kind of like X or Pearl or Maxxine, but it works just as well, where even the blood and gore there is very natural, even though it can get over the top sort of towards the end, but that's that movie. This one, in this case, it felt very right for the violence that it is.
One of the things that I really like too is that you said he does honor the '80s real well, because sometimes you see that graininess
Yes.
in some of the scenes, and it's just like, wow. It's like,
I was actually going to put that out while everyone's saying the praises of the practical effects, which, although they do deserve their praise, you know, I actually enjoyed the cinematography, you know, because of that very reason. Even though it's filmed in a 16:9 aspect, you know, that fits all modern screens, it felt like it was filmed on actual film.
No.
It didn't felt digital at all, like
Honestly,
a lot of modern films.
Honestly, actually, it was. I don't know if you looked into it. They filmed it in the same exact style of filming that would have taken place at that time. You know, I kind of did some homework, kind of like Victor here, and they did. They wanted to have that organic feel to it, so they were very smart in what they're doing, and they filmed it in that manner. So they used. If it was a camera from the '80s, they used a camera from the '80s, and that's where you got that flow from.
And it shows a lot too. So thank you for doing your homework. I mean, obviously you proved my point. They did film it on film, and just like the little nerds that you are, I'm going to steal your homework and take credit for it. Did you know that they filmed this on actual film the same way they did in the 1980s?
Yeah.
Can I kill him now?
no,
Need me a move.
Bring my gloves today again.
I know. Just you got to take Thrash out first.
Again, I don't do the fighting. Thrash does all my fighting.
It's okay. You won't fight.
And that's why you're doing so well.
Shots fired.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much fills the quota. I think without any spoilers, I think we covered up most of the bases there. So for our viewers, what is it? You're gonna get first the version without spoilers. And as soon as I can, I will release the spoiled rotten episode afterward inside the spoiler zone. So as of right now, this is going to jump over into our grade segment. For viewers, if you haven't been here before, we don't do things on a 10-point scale. We do things on a grade scale from A+ to F-.
Good, because I can't count.
Fantastic. If you haven't been here before, this is the part where I get to ask my guests what grade they give this movie. So guys, whoever wants to start, what grade do you guys give this movie?
I personally gave it just a C plus maybe. I wasn't a big fan. It wasn't a horror movie. It was okay. The acting was great, which is why I'm give it a plus. It's borderline B maybe. You know what? No, I'm going to change it. I actually think, now that I'm thinking about it, as a movie, it's actually B-worthy because the filming was great. They maintained some originality with the fact that they filmed in era quality film. It was good. Mine is a lower rating just because it wasn't a horror movie. It wasn't a slasher movie. It was gory. I will give it that. But it wasn't what it said it was. And it's kind of like what we had in our last review with Jay. You know, the movie didn't come across as what you thought it was, but it was still a good movie. Hence my rating.
Okay, I give it an A. I'm a fan of the director. Honestly, I like his style and like how he works. To be honest, and also the acting is amazing. I love all the actors, no matter how smart their part was. Giancarlo Esposito had a small part. He knocked it out of the park. So did Kevin Bacon. He glad he returned back to like his horror roots from Freddy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and honestly, Ty West has a really interesting style. I love the way he writes. He does a nice homage to things that he loves, but adds to it. And Mia Goth always makes it. Like I said, she makes a movie better. And honestly, she's just a great actress. I feel like she deserves a little bit more credit.
Yeah, I'm listening to your points of views and everything, and I'm realizing that maybe, you know, deep down inside, maybe I was too harsh on this movie. Maybe, you know, I may have just interpreted the movie wrong. Then I realized, no, I'm correct. This movie gets an F-. I don't like it. I didn't like it. You barely failed. Kevin Bacon's character is a good thing, but twist comes out of nowhere, and I just personally didn't like it. I don't think I'm going to change my mind on this.
And correction, I don't think he was in a Freddy movie. I know he was in Tremors.
He was in Freddy. I think he started Ken Bacon.
You're thinking of Johnny Depp.
No, he was in the second Freddy movie.
No.
Jason?
Yes,
Friday the 13th.
Jason, yes, you're right.
Correction? Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. Okay, yeah. That is one of the movies he did come out in.
That era is filled with horror movies. It's hard to remember every horror franchise because there's
All right, so for me, guys, I mean, looking at all points and everything, and I know I got a chance to see it twice, so it gives me a chance to be a little more in depth when it came to the movie. Again, I did after watching the first time, I had the opportunity to watch X. I saw Pearl, and then once again, I saw this movie again. So it gave me a good insight into what's going on. So if you haven't seen X and Pearl, points deducted. For you, if you're not going to enjoy it as much if you didn't get a chance to watch those, because they are a bit of a stepping stone to it. Although the first time I did see it, I liked what I saw, so I definitely do know that I liked what I saw. Overall grade for me is I'm gonna have to go with I'm gonna go with a solid B. Solid B. Great cast. What is it? I do love the setting of it. I know that the surprise ending, wasn't exactly what I anticipated, but I was also kind of pleasantly happy about that because, overall, it was something that I wasn't expecting, plain and simple. And I think to me, at least when it comes to monster movies, my favorite monster movies are the ones that don't show you the monster until the end. Because that's like when that's what we've been dealing with, where usually people are picked off. This being more of a slasher film, still though, it kind of gave you that trope where all of a sudden it came out of nowhere. So to me, I'm going to give it a solid B. just because I enjoyed everybody. I enjoyed all of it, but points deducted because you have to see X and Pearl to really, really appreciate this film. And that shouldn't be a necessity. Although, again, I did enjoy it the first time I saw it. So if you watch it the first time, that's more where it leans towards a B, mainly because if you do, there are a lot of parts you're going to enjoy. You know, I think your grade would probably be the more sound when it comes to not watching the other ones because you haven't seen them. So I think that's where it goes. But for me, I'm going to give it a solid B. All right, guys, let's delegate a little bit because we have a big spread here. I know we got our first F minus. We got a solid A.
B minus.
B minus. I'm giving it a solid B.
I think overall the movie averages out to a B, I would say.
I think I'm going to have to say it averages out more to a B minus because a big fail is a big fail with somebody. And at that point, you know, you look at it and you failed somebody. And so that's where I'm going to go. I think overall this averages out to a B minus. A B minus would probably be the more sensible grade to give this.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, all right. Well, thank you very much, guys, for being here. Once again, this is Movie Grade. I'm your host, JR Alva, voice actor. I'm joined here with
Clowny Gigglesworth, social media creator and good-looking guy.
Victor, Modern Myth Comics, normal human being.
And Jay Anderson, manager and commentator at PWL, and the most handsome guy in this table.
You take that back. He is the most handsome one. Anywho, actually, it's this guy. Anywho, clowns scare me. Again, thank you guys for watching. Once again, please follow us on all social media. If you're watching this on YouTube, please smash that like button, the subscribe button, and the bell. Also, thank you for reminding me, Clowny. Please, on the bottom, let us know of anything that you guys want us to do differently in our segment or any movie that you guys want us to watch. But even if you don't, please comment the word Hollywood on the bottom. The YouTube algorithm hasn't been very friendly to us lately. So if you can do that, that would definitely help. So please, guys, make sure you guys follow us on every social media and everything that we're doing. And thank you again for watching.